but he's okay with it.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Thank you, Cameron.
No problem.
He's the magic. Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. This is Bridging from ESL to Adult Basic Education, Building Academic Vocabulary. My name is Theresa Sands, and I was kind of telling a little bit about my history and who I was prior to the session. So if you caught a little bit of that. I have been in adult ed. I know I had mentioned that I was a K-12 teacher, still am. But I also worked adult ed at nights and on weekends because I always say that fills my heart. The other one pays my bills, but adult ed fills my heart. And my mother got her GED, and that was a promise I had made to my mother that one day I would pay back what someone gave to her, which was her GED. So a little bit about the session today. It's going to be fast-paced. It's going to be hopefully insightful, and we will have breakout rooms for you to be able to talk and dialogue with your friends. So getting to know everybody in the room. The next slide will be a little bit about getting to know you. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is at the top of this slide, and Mr. Cameron is our magic person. He's going to make sure he's my driver, if you will. So he's going to be changing it and putting y'all into breakout rooms. So here's a little tidbit for those of you who don't know. In the right-hand corner of the slide, you'll see a genie, and she's got her hands folded. That is my cue and Cameron's cue to work the magic. So when I give the genie pose, you're going to be whisked away into another land where you will do an activity. So that way, for those of you who got to know what's coming up, that gives you a cue. Uh-oh, she's going to ask me or have some kind of accountability to what she's asking us to do. So I know I'm going to be talking in just a little bit. Okay. So this is what I would like for you to do. Those of you who have a pencil and paper next to you, great. Those of you who don't, and maybe have your cell phone in your hand, you could do this on your notes. I'm going to give you 1 minute to write five nouns about yourself. Nouns, not verbs, not adjectives, not adverbs, nouns about yourself. So perhaps your name is Paul and your place is a school, the thing may be a table, the idea is love, but it's a person, place, or thing if you don't know what a noun is. All right, ready? Your 1 minute begins now. Just write them down. You're not going to share yet. No, you will just do a noun, any nouns you want. For instance, I'm a teacher. I'm a girl. Five nouns about yourself. It's a little hard when you can't use an adjective. All right, time is up. So now I'm going to fold my hands and do the genie, and we're going to be putting everybody in groups of 2 into breakout rooms. And you're going to talk to your neighbor or whoever it is, introduce yourself, tell them who you are, and then give your 5 nouns, and they're going to give their 5 nouns. During this time, I'm going to be popping in so that I get to know who y'all are. So here we go. And you should be whisked away for 3 minutes. Mr. Cameron is going to whisk you away. I think we're all coming back, correct, Mr. Cameron?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 3 minutes, I think is what we need to be in the breakout rooms, if that's okay. And then if you can make me a co-host, so that way I can go around and listen to everybody's conversation. Otherwise, I stay in that room.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And I think they had like 45 seconds. Some people may still be chit-chatting, and that's great.
Mm-hmm.
If you'll put the PowerPoint slide back up, that'll be great. So that way we
Gotcha.
can kind of. All right. There you go. Thank you.
Hmm.
Awesome. I see everybody returning. It was really great to have conversations. We're getting the glitches worked out with the breakout rooms. So thank you for being patient. We'll get there. It's a learning process for all of us as the technology pieces are kind of fading away. We had a participant leave and said she'd be back. So this is a really great activity to do with ELLs because it's helping them remind them about the nouns and what is a noun. Does anybody want to share anything that they may have shared in the breakout room that they're like, this was a really great noun someone used? Or we shared the same noun, like Ms. Z and I shared the same noun that we're dancers. We like to dance.
Oh, cool.
Miss Ann, did you want to share something?
Well, since I'm originally from California, I said I'm a California girl.
I love it. You're Californian. Awesome.
I've actually lived here for a very long time, but I still, in my heart, I'm a California girl.
Oh my goodness, you're saying that, and I'm imagining that song, Just Wanna Be a California Girl. I love it. I love it. Anybody else want to share a little something?
I'll just share a similarity. I was with Charlotte, and I noticed that both of us used nouns that were associated with our relationships. So daughter was Charlotte. She has a daughter, and she's also a daughter to her mother.
Aww.
And I did the same thing. I'm a son to my father, and I'm a brother to my brother and sister. So I thought that was kind of neat.
That is neat.
But we're both teachers. We're both teachers. We use that noun in common.
Educators. Yes, I love that. I love that. And this really helps you kind of dig deep because 5 is quite a few number. It's not like just, oh, okay, but you had to kind of start thinking about those nouns and how they relate.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to share before we move on? All right, we're going to go on to the next slide about the objectives of what today. What is it that we really want to accomplish today in this session? Well, we are definitely going to identify different types of language. This is a huge piece to transitioning students from that ESL world into the adult basic ed world. We're also going to promote and really look at some activities that you can take away with, that you can say, I can do this tomorrow or Monday with my students to help them actually be successful in that academia world or in the workforce world. We're also going to talk about an explicit vocabulary routine that maybe you hadn't heard of, that's been out there for a couple of years, and a kind of what my role was in establishing it with the other theorists and really talking through that piece and seeing if maybe you like pieces of it. So those are our objectives for today, and we're going to move on so we can kind of get the meat of the piece started. So language vocabulary. So here's where ESL and that adult basic ed are really going to bridge. We all know that a vocabulary word becomes part of your repertoire, part of your toolkit when you are able to say it. When you orally are articulating it, it becomes yours. Now, what a lot of people don't know is for monolinguals, you have to hear it and be engaged with it 17 times for it to be yours. Meaningful experiences with it. But if you're a bilingual, then it takes anywhere from 35 to 50 times of you actually being involved in it. And it's not just saying the word, it's having some writing with it. It's talking about it. It's using it. It are all of those things. So when we think of language and vocabulary development, we have to think through, there's a receptive, which is the oral, which I can speak it, I'm able to read it. But then there's that expressive, where I can actually write it and say it and understand it. And so receptive and expressive are two ways that our students can engage in our instruction so that they can own a vocabulary word. The next slide is really going to talk a little bit about tiered vocabulary. Has anyone with either a thumbs up or a thumbs down heard of tiered vocabulary? Okay, I see a thumbs down. Thumbs down. You can also do the icon if you don't want to show, you know, if you're having trouble with your camera. So it sounds like not a lot of people have had the experience of hearing tiered vocabulary. Okay, so the theorist behind this is Isabel Beck and Marzano. So the theorist behind it. And what Isabel Beck did was she looked at research and said, as teachers and as educators, we really don't know what vocabulary to choose for our students to be successful. And she actually tiered out 3 different kinds of vocabulary. And we're going to talk about each one and how it impacts your students' learning and their success. So let's start out with tier 1. Those are common words. These are probably the words that we have really focused on in our basic ESL courses. It's hello, goodbye, how are you? And we've given them those practices to be able to just have that everyday conversational, if you will, English. The definition to this is it's basic language used in everyday conversation. Do not worry about writing all of this down, because in your resources, you have this PowerPoint slide in your resources so that you can go back and say, what was it again? And you can actually go in and look at it. And if you want to download it and have tool screens right now, you can and type in your notes. It's however you learn. But I wanted to let you know, do not worry about having to memorize this because you have a resource with this slide in it. Some examples of tier 1 common words would be things like friend, plan, strange, quickly. Those are all words that you probably talked about in your basic ESL courses. Does anybody want to talk a little bit about tier 1 words and any correlation, or if you did teach some of these words, just unmute yourself and please chime in.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Matthew.
Hey, how you doing?
Just fine.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And so have you ever taught the tier 1 common words in your ESL courses?
No, but I think it's good practice for when we're designing ESL classes and lesson plans. And I think this could be really helpful for us for our project.
And I love that you said that, because when we move into the tier 2 words, you're going to see and when you're saying lesson plans and your curriculum, if you will, thinking about our basic ESL will cover the tier 1 words. But the next step, our next advanced maybe courses or the bridge over into ABE would do these words. Watch this, tier 2 words. Tier 2 words are academic words. Now, some of you are thinking, well, is that like a polygon and photosynthesis? No, these words aren't like those words. These words is what Isabel Beck says gets the most bang for your buck. These words, when taught explicitly to our students, are going to help them on tests. It's going to help them in the job workforce. And those words are the more complex words. So the definition is they're more complex words than your tier 1. They're frequently occurring in assessments. Mr. Cameron, if you'll hit return, they can kind of see it. So those that, thank you. They're frequently occurring in academic settings. So I want you to think about some words like maybe justify your answer. Maybe evaluate what the difference is between da and da. Our students may know how to do that, but that word evaluate, they don't hear it in the tier 1 common language. Very few students probably hear it every day. They probably hear it interpret very, very seldom. So when they get it on a question, on an assessment, or someone says, evaluate why customers aren't coming into our store. They're looking at them going, I have no idea what you're asking me to do. But I bet you that they could do the action if they knew what that word meant. So some examples of this word are contradict. They are analyze, maybe merge, emerge. And you can show those if you'd like, Mr. Cameron, so they can kind of see those for our visual. Some people are visual and they have to see the words. And so if you'll hit enter, should come up, the next examples. And you have this slide, like I said, in your resources. So you definitely can go back and look at them. So thinking about those examples and how you can use them. So let's talk a little bit about that. How many of you explicitly teach words that are tier 2? And you're like, okay, these words are the words that they're going to see on an assessment, or they're going to be asked to do in a job embedded performance. And those words they need to know. Miss Mary or Miss E, anybody?
I don't think I explicitly teach them. I try to help them. I ask questions to help them determine the meaning. I usually illustrate it maybe with a picture or with gestures, but I don't think I explicitly teach them. And by explicit, what I'm thinking you're saying, Theresa, is you just tell them what the meaning is.
That's right. There's an explicit way, and we're going to talk about that in the next couple of slides about when I say explicit, what do I mean? Well, it is a step-by-step process that you take them through that involves very, how do I say, like the lowest level of rigor, just kind of telling you the word. But then you go through a series of getting more complex in your analyzation and your evaluation. So you don't only just acquire it, you use it and you extend it.
Okay.
And opportunities for those engaging activities have to be explicitly planned for, like Mr. Matthews said, in order for our ESL students or our ELL students to be able to say, it's mine, I own it, and I understand it completely. And we don't have the time to do every single vocabulary word out there. So I'm going to show you a couple of strategies on how we can leverage what we do so that they get a bigger container full of those vocabulary words. So I think tier 3 content specific words is something that we do a good job with, especially if we're teaching math or science. And the definition for that one is highly specialized words that are related to a specific discipline. So photosynthesis, right? Polygon, Pythagorean theorem, the Revolutionary War, things like that, polygons, right? Filibuster. Those are very specialized to content. And I think I can say for myself that when I taught adult ed, I probably stayed in between tier 1 and tier 3 words. And tier 2 words were kind of like Mr. Pete said. If I was doing a TABE fundamentals and we were actually doing some activities out of that, I may talk them through what the question is asking and telling them, oh, that word contradict means, but I may not have explicitly gone in depth with it. So when I worked for the University of Texas at Austin, I became part of the research group that actually put this into motion. I'm sorry, Mr. Cameron?
I said hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em horns. Exactly. It's funny because I worked for them and then my son went to Texas A&M. So I am both. I live in both worlds. So when you think about the 3 content specific words, let's talk through that piece. Miss Mary or Miss Ann or Miss Charlotte, do you want to say a little bit about those tier 3 words that are like those content specific? Do y'all tap into those?
I have taught a citizenship class in the past, and definitely, and there's a lot of content specific words.
There are, you're exactly right. And for that, you will need to do that, right? Because you could, and so, but again, if I ask you a question that says, can you evaluate these 2 words? You're going to look at me and go, huh? Because what's the word evaluate? They know what they are. You've taught them. They know exactly what they are. But the word that precurses it, the vocabulary that goes before it, I may not know what that means. And so that hinders me to answer the question or to respond in the in-depth manner that some of our adult courses need or our assessments. And sometimes when they apply for a job and they're in an interview and they ask them those questions and they're like, I don't know what that means. So I don't know how to answer the question back to them. And they it throws them off. So These are tiered 1, 2, and 3 words. Any questions? Because you're going to do a little activity with them. So any questions about them? In the resources, Mr. Cameron, we loaded the resources in there for them, right? So that they could access it.
Yes, ma'am. I'll have those all in there by the end of the presentation.
Okay, great. So you're going to get access to this. So kind of look at it. I know some of us, we like to take a picture of the slide so that when we do our breakout room, you're like, well, what's tier 1 again? If you take a picture with your phone of this slide, it'll help you when you're doing your activity.
Okay, let me do that.
A lot of people like to do that with their phone.
Yes.
Okay, so let's take a look at these words.
Oh, boy.
Your role, I'm going to give you, you're not going to break out yet. We're going to break out in just a minute. First, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes, 2 minutes, to go over these words, and you write them down because you're going to share it with your neighbor when we break out. And you're going to say assumption. I think that's a tier 1, 2, or 3 word. Assumption. You're going to look at the word data or data, and you're going to say, I think that's a 1, 2, or 3 word. You're going to do that for every single one of these words. And then Mr. Cameron's going to work his magic when the genie comes out, throw you into a breakout room with someone, and you're going to tell them, this is what I got for my list. What did you get for your list? And you're going to see how closely you two are aligned. All right, so I'm going to set my timer for 2 minutes. You're working right now, right here. Mr. Cameron is going to start getting the breakout rooms ready. You're going to go in pairs for 3 minutes, but not right now. First, we're going to give you some work time. So 2 minutes of work time. For those of you who want to write something next to it, you got about 20 seconds. So if you just want to guess for the rest of them, just guess so you have something to say. 20 seconds. All right. So what we're going to do now is get your list together. Mr. Cameron, my magician, is going to break you out into rooms of pairs for 3 minutes, and you're going to go over the list and kind of say, well, I think this one's this, and I think that one's that. And you're going to have a conversation. And while you're having that conversation, you may not agree on something, and I want you to talk through it on what your mind was doing to come up with that. So to see where are we at with each other and calibrating. Ready? Here we go. You ready, Mr. Cameron? Here we go. Mr. Cameron, I'm a co-host, right? Otherwise I won't be able to jump in and out.
So me and Jackie, we spoke about it. It's something going on with our internet where I'm not able to make you a co-host. But what I
Okay.
can do is, I can bounce you back and forth to a room to so
That'd be
you can be
great.
on different, maybe like a minute and a half, and I'll be able to change you into different rooms.
Awesome, awesome. I'm gonna join 3 then, and then if you'll move me out.
Yeah, in
don't leave
about a
me in-
minute,
yeah.
minute and a half, I'll
Give me
switch you
about, give me
over to
about
another
40
one.
seconds, about 40 seconds in each room would work. Because
No
I like to
problem.
be back at this main session before everybody else. That way
All
I'm
right.
ready.
Not a problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good.
It was fun.
Welcome everybody back. I heard some great dialogue in there. A lot of, well, you just had me change my mind.
Yeah.
Anybody want to talk about this exercise? Did they find it difficult? Did they find it easy? Did they find that, there's more to this tier 2 thing than I thought?
Right. No, I think my insight on this just in my group was by talking it out with the other teachers in my group, I was able to, I did change my mind. Like the word data, for instance, I thought, well, it is a tier 1 word, but then Charlotte asked me a very good question. She said, well, why did you say that? And I said, well, maybe, yeah, maybe I just did because it's a short word, but it's not a word that is used in everyday conversation. And I can assure you, I did not use the word data yesterday a single time.
And you are exactly right. So when you're looking, what you said was spot on.
Yes.
I may use data all the time because my role in my job
Right.
asks for it. But everyday conversation for all of us in this room, the word data, probably didn't use it at all yesterday.
No.
And so great way to think about it. Did anybody find this challenging, or like, I know Mr. Pete, you said it kind of opened my eyes to something here.
It did.
We got to touch briefly on the diversity of the English language and its double-edged sword quality, because while it makes it a truly living language, because we're always changing and adopting new words and expanding, it also makes it so unpredictable. And so everything is about context, and even, data and data, even pronunciation. Go back to the musical Tomato, Tomato. I mean, and when do you use it and where? It's so complex. I was noting my grandmother used to talk about the word can. We have a can of tomatoes and I can run. Just Spanish, we have words, one word, one thing, it's done, it's simple. English is, all mixed up.
And I love that you said that, Miss Jackie, because I have a session for ESL that's actually about linguistics and the words and why we say them the way they do, and how do we pronunciate them using our mouth and our tongue and the placement and all of that. And it's a session that I actually do with ESL teachers, because that is so important, not only to be able to pronunciate the words, however, it also goes with meaning and where they're derived from and the morphology of it. And so you were exactly right, that piece. And those of us who are natives, we've experienced it all these years. So we don't need that direct, explicit instruction of where is my tongue placed when I say shh. But for ELLs, that's imperative to tell them the voiced and unvoiced of letters and sounds, so that when they're producing them, they understand the difference. So thank you for bringing that up. The next slide I want to talk about is direct versus indirect. And Mr. Pete, you kind of talked a little bit about this earlier about, I may not have explicitly taught it. I kind of told them in context as we were rolling around. Well, the number one mistake that we found in our research project was that an error that teachers make, and we just do it, we don't even catch ourselves doing it until we brought it to the attention of educators, is when we introduce a word, like an explicit word we want to teach, such as data, we'll ask students, what do you think it means? What do you think data means? And we actually, Isabel Beck says that is not good to do, because the very first response the students hear is going to be possibly an incorrect response. And now the students' first exposure with the word data isn't the true meaning of the word data. And that's the one they're going to hold on to the longest. So when we have an explicit word we want to teach, what does that mean? It means we have to tell the students directly what it is that they're going to learn. We have to lead the students through activities that are going to result in an outcome of them owning that word. We need to have models, demonstrations. Somebody said, I have pictures, I have illustrations. Some of us use graphic organizers. Some of us give feedback and say, hey, I like the way you use this word. Those are all direct. Indirect is we tell them a little piece and we move on. We may facilitate the students to talk about it without really any direction. It's more of an exploration for them and a discovery. Maybe in their reading, you're going to come across this word in the reading, so I'm just going to tell you what it means right now before you get to it. That is called indirect instruction. You want to have indirect instruction only after you explicitly teach something so that they have a way. Now, if it's a tier 1 word, then you can use indirect because it's not giving you your most bang for your buck. You don't have to spend 20 minutes or 5 minutes on it. You can say it and move. But for tier 2 words, those words that are going to be really, really powerful for our students, we want to spend some time. So I'm going to go through a direct vocabulary routine with you. So our next few slides, if you'll bear with me, you can unmute if you can, and I'm going to ask you to chime in with me as I ask for your responses, because we're going to play what I call pretend like I'm the teacher, you're the student. And I'm going to go through the routine so you can kind of see one way, not the only way, one way you can do it for your tier 2 direct instruction words. So direct vocabulary instruction example. By the way, this comes from Anita Archer's work. She is the queen of vocabulary. You can see her cited in the right-hand corner. If you have not gotten her book, it's wonderful. It's called Explicit Instruction. And she goes through this. So the word that we're going to learn today, students, is category. Please say category.
Category.
Right. This word is category. What is the word?
Category.
When you have a say it,
Category.
Category.
you have a group of people or things that have the same characteristics. They form a
Category.
So when you have a group of people or things that have the same characteristics, they form a category. Very nice. Okay, next one. Next slide. For example, you could divide people into 2 groups by gender, one male, one female. Each gender would be a
Category.
You could divide people into groups by campus. Each campus would be a
Category.
You could divide people into groups by state of origin. Each state of origin would be a
Category.
You can also divide things into categories. For example, you could divide cars into categories by make, color, year produced, size of engine, and so on. Each of these would be called a what? Category. Very nice. Look how many times you've engaged with the word category in a sentence or in a meaningful description of what category is. I've given you lots of examples. So the next slide is going to take it a little bit further, and it's going to actually say something like this. Now that you kind of know, and I've gone over it, I would say, I will tell you one category. You tell your partner another category. So here we go. People, female, and another category. In your chat, I would like for you to open up your chat and make sure everyone can see it. So put it in your chat. If I said people, female, what would be another category? Type it into your chat, but do not hit enter yet. Type it into your chat, but do not hit enter yet. This is called a waterfall activity, just if you didn't know. What's going to happen is when I say go, you're going to hit enter, and everyone is going to hit enter at the same time. And you're going to see a waterfall of all of the comments of the category they selected. So I said people, female, you typed in another category, hit enter, and everybody will be able to see the waterfall occur. Ready? Go. Male, state.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go, male, okay. And you get to see everybody's answers. Kind of cool, right? Let's try the next one. Here we go. Books, fiction, books, fiction, and another category. Type it into your chat. Here comes the waterfall. Hit enter. Nonfiction, nonfiction, nonfiction. I was waiting for somebody to say poetry.
Ooh.
Oh.
A poem book. Somebody say fables, nursery rhymes. All those could be, right? They could be a book. All right, next one. Political parties.
Teresa,
Yes.
quick question. Are we doing a category after like fiction? Is it a category of fiction?
It could be
Kinda know what
either
I'm-
or. Doesn't matter. It's a category. I could have asked you and said, hey, you wrote this. Are you
What?
giving me a category of a book? Or are you giving me a category of fiction? And then
Oh,
we
I
could
see.
talk about
Okay.
subcategories,
Okay,
right?
because right now I've been thinking
Yeah.
there's only one other answer, right?
Oh,
Right, but I want my students to start thinking about categories and broad like you, like there's one answer, but then I'm going to have students like you who are going to say, well, there's a subcategory to it, isn't
Yeah.
there?
Okay.
And then we could have that dialogue and discussion through this. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
Yes.
Next one,
Yeah.
political parties. Democratic, another category of political parties. Besides Democratic, you can't use that one. Ah, hold on. Y'all didn't wait for the waterfall. Get in there and let's see the waterfall. Green, Republican, independent maybe, right? Awesome. And think of the vocabulary that your students are now getting that other students may have that they didn't have until you opened it up for this discussion. And remember, it's all about what? Categories.
Mhm.
So I'm not only learning about categories, but I'm like, you said independent. What do you mean? Or you said libertarian. What does that mean? What does green mean? And now you're having discussions and dialogue about all of this rich vocabulary that goes along with what we're talking about. So we're going to break out. So get ready. Here's your next thing. With your partner, list sets of categories that students can be grouped in. So he'll put it up so you can see it, Mr. Cameron, if you'll put up the next part that they'll be doing in their groups in just a minute. With your partner, list sets of categories that students can be grouped in. So the categories could be boys and girls, or the categories of blue-eyed, green-eyed, brown-eyed, but there's other ways that we can group our students. Think about adult ed, think about your classroom, think about that. Okay, so ready? Mr. Cameron is going to put us in groups of pairs, in twos, and he's going to put us away for 3 minutes. So come up with yours before he puts us away. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to think of some that you can share when you get whisked away. 30 seconds. Welcome, Dee. And here we go. You're being whisked off to share. Awesome. I heard some really, really great things, and I'm really thinking about the title of the session, which is bridging those ESL students into adult basic ed. Miss Jackie and I were having a really great conversation in the breakout room about using some of those characteristics that they would know, hair color, that kind of thing, but taking them into the word category, which is a word they probably don't hear all the time. So we're going to wait for everybody to come on board, and then we'll go through the next couple of slides pretty quick, because I want to give you time to play with something that I'm excited about, and I kind of want y'all to see it. I get goofy about these kind of things because it's exciting to me. When I find a resource that's free, woohoo! There they all come back.
Okay.
Awesome. I was just telling Miss Ann that we're going to go through the next couple of slides pretty quick because I want some time to play with this free resource, and I want y'all have time to play with it. So I love that Miss Jackie was bridging the ESL students by saying I would do it by hair color, yes, by whether or not they're parents of a four-legged or are parents of children, like what are you a parent of, and categorizing them that way, because you're bringing that ESL basic ESL oral language piece and now bridging it over to the adult basic ed vocabulary, which is category, right? And so thinking through those pieces as we're going through. The next slide is really just taking you through how you could take the word category and exposing your students to more than just that word. So you could say category is a noun, categories is still a noun, but categorize is a verb, and categorized is a verb that's past tense. Categorizing, categorization becomes a noun again, categorical, which is an adjective, and categorizer, which is a noun. So these words are all from the same family of category. And so you leverage the word category to introduce multiple forms of that word. So if they see a form of that word, they'll know in their mind, oh, I know what category means. So I have some context of what these other words mean. Does that make sense to everybody? Awesome. So in this next one, we're still in that explicit realm of teacher and student. When we get to the, this is a passage that you can use, and it's the word category. It says, when I touch in the word category word family, please say it. But instead of I'm touching, I'll pause and you will read the word. Okay, as students, you'll read the word, I'll lead it. There is not just one, y'all go ahead, category of trees. Trees can be put into two
Categories.
You can
Categorize
trees as deciduous and evergreen. Trees are often
categorized
in this manner. You will find that this system of
Categorization.
is found in most books on the subject. When you determine the type of trees in your community, you would be a
categorizer.
So look how many opportunities in explicit instruction we've given to students to be able to say it, see it in a sentence, do all of these wonderful things. That is teaching tier 2 words explicitly. Do you have to do all of these things in one sitting? No, you can make it 5 minutes of your instructional time, and you can work on category for a couple of weeks. You can put it in pieces, however you would like. You can put it in with your math unit. You can put it in with your social studies. It doesn't matter, because category and the word category can be done in any content in any form. So on the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about is I want to give you some time to digest what we just went over. So how did I directly teach you the word category? Mr. Cameron is going to put us in a breakout room again of 3 minutes. You'll be with the partner, and you're going to get to tell them, hey, when she did this in her explicit vocabulary routine, I kind of like that. I think I might use that. Or, you know what? I never thought of that piece before. I might need a resource for that. So Mr. Cameron, if you'll switch it to the next slide, we're going to break them out in 3 minute breakout rooms to answer this question. how did I directly teach you the word category? How did I directly teach it to you? There was a number of ways that we did it.
Your phone.
So ready? When Cameron is ready, I'm ready, and we're gonna get whisked away. Miss D, are you in a group? Mr. Cameron, I don't know if you got D in. She came in late.
Yeah, I have her in a
Okay.
room 3.
All
I
right,
think.
Miss D, just accept. Miss Charlotte. Thank you. Miss D, I don't know if she's on. She may be having trouble. Mr. Cameron, will you just leave me in a room for 15 seconds and then pull me out into another room?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna go into room 1, but please take me out in about 15, 20 seconds.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hi there. I was not in a breakout room with someone.
He was in D's breakout room. Gotcha. I'm gonna move you into another one.
Okay, Karen, thank you.
No problem.
Okay. think everybody's coming back. Mr. Cameron, Miss D, did she ever respond, Mr. Cameron?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, I'm not sure whether or not she's having technical difficulties or not. Miss D, can you please type something into the chat box to Mr. Cameron so that we know you're here and we can give you credit for being here? If you can just kind of type into the chat box and say, I'm here, I don't have audio, or because we want you to participate. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Some really great things. One of the things that I heard two people talking about, and I just want to clarify you for, is that, remember, Isabel Beck says, this isn't about teaching 10 vocabulary words or 7 vocabulary words. When you explicitly teach these words, you want to be purposeful, and fewer is more. So that old thing of, I need to learn 10 vocabulary words by next Friday is very old school. And when we think about the brain and the cognitive and what we're trying to accomplish, I would rather them know 5 words or 3 words forever than know 10 words for a week and then dump it, or know it for that session and then say, I don't remember. So yes, it takes time to explicitly teach the words, but think through the piece of, that means the words that I do want to do is be able to do that. So just think through that. Just think through a different lens for a little bit on that one. Isabel Beck says, less is more. Marzano says, make the ones you do explicitly teach count. Which ones can you teach with just a visual? Which ones can you teach with just this or that? Leave those there, indirectly teach them, but directly teach the ones that are going to get you your most bang for your buck. Okay, on the next slide, and you have this slide, so know that you have this. Expecting students to learn through reading alone is not good vocabulary instruction. That's something the way we learned, but not really a way that the brain is going to keep it. Students must talk. Students must have the dialogue with the word, or you will have limited student talk, which is not what you want, because then you know the word really well and you can say the word really well, but you're not the student. Confining instruction to reading and language arts. Yes, reading and language arts is a great way through text and articles and whatnot, but really vocabulary needs to be taught across the 4 core. Limiting activities to matching words with definitions, looking up definitions in the dictionary, or placing words on a word wall. If you've got your own room, you'll put it up on the wall, or students will write it in their notebook. Those are not ways to explicitly, directly teach vocabulary. Those may be ways we learned it, and maybe we were accustomed to it, but since then, research has shown that there's a better way to teach it for our students. The next slide, we're gonna, go ahead. Did somebody want to say something? No, we're good? Okay. Steps for explicit vocabulary instruction. So this is kind of the way you can do it. And I'm going to take you through it rather quickly. You would not do this all in one setting with your students. You wouldn't even do it as fast as I'm doing it. But because of time, and I want to just kind of model a little bit of what it could look for, I wanted to share it with you. This is called the Steps for Explicit Vocabulary Routine. This is what Isabel Beck and Marzano, the University of Texas brought them both together and said, this would be a fantastic way to do this. We piloted it with one of a high school in San Antonio, and they actually made more gains in vocabulary than anything we've ever seen. And it was a very predominantly ESL community. So I want to share with you. So on the next slide, these are the steps you would follow. We're going to just kind of do it really quickly. So if you can unmute, that's great. I know some of you, if you'll go past this slide, it was just talking about tier 1, tier 2, Mr. Cameron, if you can go this one. Yes, sir. Some of you can't, and I understand if you cannot because you don't have audio, that's okay. If you can, please participate. It says show, pronounce, and have students repeat the word. So when you show them the word, they're seeing the letters, and some people are visual. Pronounce. So I'm going to say a word, and I'd like for you to pronounce the word. The word is nictate. Say the word.
Nictate.
Very good. Nictate. Now, I'm going to show you what nictate means. Ready? Get ready. Watch, because I'm going to show you real quick. Nictate means to blink or wink. Can you dictate for me? Awesome. So dictate, take away the is what word? If I take away the sound for the beginning of dictate, what would I have left?
Dictate.
Dictate.
Dictate. Very nice. So if I took away the t sound at the end, and I said dictate, take away the t at the end, what word would I have left?
Dictate.
Dictate. Very nice. What I'm doing right now is I'm bridging for my ELL students who may not know the sounds of the English language, and they're trying to formulate that word in their brain. And I'm taking it away, some sounds away, so that when they formulate the word, they know it's got a it, that it has 5 sounds in the word dictate, and they're able to actually process them. Provide a student-friendly definition of the word. I told you it was to what? Blink or wink, and I even showed you what it meant. I have the students discuss what the word might mean. Pete, can you tell me, when would you dictate?
If I liked someone.
If you like someone. All right, Mr. Matthew, when would you dictate, perhaps?
At joking, like telling a joke.
Telling a joke. I might dictate to you. And Jackie says maybe even at a bar, I might dictate. If I'm at the beach and sand gets in my eye, I might dictate to get the sand out. When I put a contact in my eye, and I might have to dictate to get it wet. So you see how I'm giving you all of these scenarios with the word dictate. Then, of course, I would say dictate is not when I close my eyes to go to sleep, because I'm not winking or blinking. Dictate is not when I'm thinking and I close my eyes to think or to calm myself down. That's not dictating. So you kind of see where we're going with that. Well, you wouldn't do all of these in one sitting again. You would not do them all in one class period. You can do 1 and 2, maybe on the first class period, come back and revisit and add to it. And you could build on it so that students don't feel overwhelmed about it. Okay. So on the next slide, because I'm looking at time and I want to give us time to do this. The next slide is just think about those analyzing and categorizing and practicing in different contexts, giving students that opportunity to do some deeper brain processing activities. Do graphic organizers, do add words to your vocabulary journal or to a word wall, and definitely use it in your discussion and writing, and ask students to actually put it into motion so they can extend. The next slide, which we're going to spend about 5 minutes on, we're not going to break out in this activity. We're going to go ahead and go to the next one, Mr. Cameron. And this is where he's going to put this website, www.wordsift.com, in our chat so that you can actually go on after he shows you what it does. This is a free site. This is one of my favorite sites in the whole world because it's free. So if you'll click on it, Mr. Cameron, and let's take them there and show them how to use it. And again, you have this slide, so you'll be able to do this on your own time as well. So wordsift.org does put it in another language as well. So you have that opportunity for your, whether they're Spanish speakers or whoever, to change the language. So we're going to use I Have a Dream because that's already in there. So Mr. Cameron will click on I Have a Dream. And what it's going to do, next one over, it's like the second one over. There you go. All right. What this is doing is it's putting the text I have a dream into this. If your students are typing in a Word document, you could actually copy and paste their work and put it in here. You can take anything off the internet that you can copy and paste and put it in here. And it will do this for anything that you put in here. So he's going to hit the word sift. So the green bar at the bottom where it says sift. And what it's doing right now is it is sifting every single word in I Have a Dream by Martin Luther King. And it is making the words that mean the most context, the main idea, bigger than all the other words. So the ones that are used most often. So as you can see, the word freedom is the biggest. So I love this because if your student is using and saying, well, that's not what I meant in this paper that I wrote. Well, honey, you used it 18 million times because it's the biggest one on there. So apparently you were redundant. So go back and revise and edit, right? So if you look at mark words up at the top where it says mark words, and if you'll click on that, Marzano and Pickering have actually already done this for us. So if you'll do math for me, please, Mr. Cameron. See the words that are now in blue? Remember, Jackie, when you said about can and can of tomatoes and I can run? This is where this comes into play. It is highlighting any words that can cross over into your math vocabulary in blue. It does it for science, for social studies, for any of them. So now your students can see it and say, I might see that word in math. You like that, Matthew? Awesome. I knew y'all would love this site. This is the best part. But here, I'm not even there yet. Watch this. Mr. Cameron, will you click on the word freedom for me? Now, will you open up your screen bigger? Thank you. Or roll down, scroll down. It gives me a graphic organizer right there in the left-hand corner where those red dots are. I don't know if you can see it, but it gives me other words that I can use or that are associated with the word freedom.
Can you make that bigger?
Can you make it bigger, Mr. Cameron? Thank you. He's our magician, I'm telling you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Cameron.
And then look what else it does for us. No longer do we have to go searching for pictures. Somebody said, I use pictures, I use illustrations. Over there, it says images and videos. So every image that has the word freedom is going to be over here that could represent the word freedom. If you want a video, a short clip for your students to see it, they can do that as well. And you just click on it and it'll take you. If you click on images, Mr. Cameron, it's going to give you a plethora of items. If you'll click on the word at the top, images, yep. And there is tons of images that would represent the word freedom.
Yeah.
I told you this was the best ever, and it's free. And then down below, this is another really great writing piece if you're bridging from ESL to ABE, because we all know they have a writing piece. Over here on the bottom, where it's freedom is in the word pink, that is every time they use the word freedom in a sentence. And over on the right is the actual paper in its entirety with the word freedom highlighted, so you can see where they used it. So what do you think?
Yeah, and that's Martin Luther King's speech here, right?
Yes, it is. But I could have put anything I wanted in there.
You could have put anything you wanted into WordSift.
And I could even have just put one word. If we would have put in there nictate, it would have brought up nictate and then would have done everything it just did for me and given me a picture of nictate. I could have just done word. I could have done a series of words. I could have taken some of the text that I'm reading in class and put it in here. A teacher no longer has to dig and dig and dig.
Yes.
You can come here and do this. You can show this to your students and let them become the explorers of their own learning.
That's really cool.
Because up here, it does give you, I want to say, it does allow you to change the, it allows you to change it to Spanish.
Oh,
and it
my.
doesn't allow you to change the actual, and so, but you have this site. We can go back to the PowerPoint because I know I don't want to run over time. I want to be very, very good about your time. You have this in your notes and your resources. The link will be there, so you can go in there and play. The second one, learnersdictionary.com, and the other one are student-friendly definitions so that you don't have to go looking for it. So it's not going to be this complex, my students don't even know the word. You know how when you used to look it up in the dictionary, say, I don't even know that word. And now I have to go look up that word just to know what this word means. Well, this is student-friendly definition, so you don't have to do that anymore. And it also gives you an area that you can actually it'll pronunciate it for you so that your students can hear what it's supposed to sound like. Okay. So on the next slide is a bunch of resources. These resources have been loaded into your file cabinet that Mr. Cameron said you'll have at the end. These are just some of them. How well do you know the words is a graphic organizer. The next one that you're going to be able to go in and dig in, and they'll have little descriptions on them, so you'll be able to go and look and dig at your leisure. The next slide is another one of my resources that I use whenever I'm teaching vocabulary. Mr. Cameron, if you'll scroll to the next slide. This one is meeting a new vocabulary word, a graphic organizer you can use, possibly predicted meaning of the word. Based on that meaning, use this word in a sentence. This may be something you want to do, but instead of predicting the meaning of the word, you would tell them and they could write it in if it's your tier 2 word. If it's a tier 1 or a tier 3 word, you can do the prediction. Tier 2 words, you don't. The next resource that you're going to see inside this bucket is a word map. So what is it like? What is it not like? What's the word? What are some examples? So again, you can put this in their notebook or they can draw it out. And that's taking what we talked about earlier when I said, what is it not? What is it? The next example that I have for you on here is, I did this in Spanish. It's the Frere model. So it's the Frere model in Spanish. You will get it in English and Spanish in our resource guide. So you'll have it in both ways. And then in there also is going to be, on the next slide, I do believe I added it in there. I beg, borrow, and steal from everywhere I know. And so one of the places I begged, borrowed, and stole from Houston ISD, actually put out a 50-page document on how to teach ELLs and sentence stems and cognates and all kinds of wonderful, great stuff. And that is already loaded in your resources as well. So you'll be able to dig through there and say, I want to use one of those sentence stems like she did, but I don't want to have to create it. You don't have to. You can go in there and depending on what your outcome is, the sentence stem will already be created for you. So if you'll scroll to the next page, Mr. Cameron. I'm going to let you reflect. I know the end was kind of, gave you a lot of information and I'm sure you're still reeling from WordSift, but I'm going to give you some time to reflect about everything I showed you, the resources that you have not been able to see in its entirety yet, but you will. And Mr. Cameron is going to break us out into rooms of pairs for 3 minutes. And you're going to just get to talk about, what did I learn today? What was my biggest takeaway? What am I going to try to do and not do in my classroom? What am I okay doing? Thank you, Miss Mary. And so, Mr. Cameron, when you're ready, whisk us away in your genie way so that we can talk about what we've learned today.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Will you leave me about 15 seconds or 20 seconds? And we may want to cut it off at 2 minutes just because I'm looking at the time and we still have to do the evaluation.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm going to join our group and if you'll whisk me out of there in a little bit.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Awesome. I heard some really great information in there. And so I'm glad that you enjoyed it and that I know our time was short. This is generally a whole day because I've got a plethora of things that we could do. But I hope the few things that we did share today, that meaning was gained from it. This is my email address and my cell phone. I can tell you, texting me is the best way, or say, hey, I sent you an email. Sometimes I don't get to this email all the time. But if there's something you want or something you need, or you jump into the filing cabinet of stuff and you're like, when would she use this? Just give me a holler and I'll be more than happy to go over it with you or say, oh, guess what? I have this or I have that. I believe, I could go on Teachers Pay Teachers and sell some of this stuff, but to me, we're all poor. All of us, we're all teachers. So I'm not going to charge anybody for anything. I'm just going to give it to them the way my mother was given her education back when I was in 6th grade and she was going to her adult ed classes at night and getting her GED. So I appreciate, I'm sorry about the delay start. I know that's going to be one of the evaluation questions. My apologies for that, technical difficulties. But any comments you make or that you would like for me to see, please make them on the evaluation. I do read them all. I do take them to heart. I do try to get better at my craft and bring you things that you would like. If you like the linguistic one, where we talk about the formation of the mouth, affricatives, glides, all of those things, that's a session that I do for ESL beginning so that teachers understand how to teach those sounds to their students.
I want to give a big tip of the hat to Theresa and to Cameron, both for navigating these waters together. I have already sent an email to Paula, Theresa, by the way, because I wanted to make it clear about the struggles we had and that they in no way had anything to do with you, because you are outstanding. I don't mean to influence these surveys, but that's part of my survey. The link is in the chat as well. Cameron has a raise. Oh, Cameron's clapping. Thank you. I have to say, and I mentioned this earlier, this is the first time we've had so many things go on, but I tell you, Theresa made a good point. You learn more about yourself when things go wrong than when they go right. So congratulations. I think we learned some positive things about ourselves. Theresa, I think I can say with confidence that we will definitely be inviting you back to do more with us. I'll be speaking with Paula. There are things that you brought up today that I really feel should have a broader audience. So we will give this another go again and work on some things. I know personally, I grew a lot just in this short time as a presenter, learning from you, seeing your tips, seeing your style. And I just want to tell you, thank you. It was an excellent, valuable time.
Thank you very much. And you're right. Cameron was the magic behind the scenes. And without him, that allows me to concentrate on y'all. So thank you, Mr. Cameron, for everything. And Mr. Pete for allowing me to come and do this with everybody.
Yes, I ditto everything Jackie just said. So glad to learn from you and become a better teacher.
Yeah, absolutely. This is recorded. So the good thing is we have a recording. We will make this recording available to everyone who had registered so that they can have an opportunity to view it if they missed it, and then to review it for those of us who were here the first time around. And then, of course, you always get more the second, third time around. The resources will be sent out via email to all you guys. We know who has been here. Your surveys, you guys, make sure that you access the link and definitely make use of giving that feedback over to TCALL, because this is one of the ways that they ensure quality control, as well as make sure that the wonderful presenters that they have on their team are compensated and accurately recognized for their work. Cameron is sharing a lot of information in the chat, and we're just going to leave this room open since we had a little struggle anyway. If you want to hang out, for an extra half hour, get all these resources. I don't know, Teresa, about your time, if you're able to hang out a little bit.
I've got another session in like 30 minutes, but I can
Okay.
stay for a couple minutes. And again, y'all have my cell phone, so please,
Thank
please,
you.
please call me, text me, just say, hey, got a minute? And I'll make it happen one way or
Thank
another.
you, ma'am. You
Thank
will
you.
be
I'm
hearing from us, I can tell you.
Awesome. Thank y'all very much. I'm gonna go ahead and get off, but like I said, text me if you need me.
All
Thank you,
right.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Teresa.
All right, have a good day. And
You
again, we're just going to keep this open. Go ahead, Pete.
Just all the resources, Cameron, that you're putting there, those I don't have to worry about that, downloading it from chat. That's going to go out in the email.
It's going to go out in email in
Okay.
case for those of you who want to go ahead and access them. We're going to have it available if you want to do that. If you need to go, no problem.
I will just wait.
Yeah,
till
no
those
worries.
are sent out.
Matthew, no worries. Just FYI on Matthew. Matthew's actually part of our AmeriCorps Vista program. He's working with the Bridge Digital Academy sites. And I opened this invitation up to let these guys have an opportunity to learn more about our field.
Yeah.
It certainly wasn't a requirement, and he decided to come. So that was kind of exciting, so he could learn more.
Yeah. All
Very
right.
good. All right.
Well,
Is
sign
there
off.
any?
Thank you.
Thank
I
you,
got
Pete.
this. The survey is there too. So I know TCALL would want us to do that. So I have it up on my computer.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Cameron, for putting that there. And thank you to the mayor's office for putting this together as well. Jackie and Cameron, thank you.
Hey, we'll shake the bugs out and
All right.
get
Yeah,
it
it's
good. All right. Everybody enjoy the 3-day weekend, please.
Yeah.
I hope you have one.
Yeah. All right. So long. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Bye.
You're welcome, man. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Pete. All righty. Miss D, did you have any questions of us?
I don't think she was able to participate verbally.
Oh, I think she's got her. She was off. So I guess Cam, you can get her out. I think you have as host, you can go ahead and disconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah, disconnect her. Perfect. All right. So I don't see anything that we could say, oh, we didn't anticipate or plan for.
Yeah. This was most of the issues were connectivity issues, not any fault of our own.
Yeah, so I went ahead and I already sent an email out over to explain what happened. I don't know what happened to Eventbrite. All I can say is maybe it is some user error over here. Maybe I didn't do a right connection with the Zoom meeting. That's all I can kind of brainstorm. I did email everyone because with Zoom, you know, you can Eventbrite, you can download the entire guest list.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and did that like we did with the Beautiful Mind. And I sent that email out. So, you know, I don't know if people just, you know, decided or they got frustrated or, you know, whatever, which, you know, I don't blame them. But all in all, I think it was okay. On the recording, and I guess did you stop recording yet?
I did. Yeah.
Okay,
Or,
great.
yeah,